What's up guys, Asian here again with another theory crafting video, and today we're going to be going over the DPS loss between Rending Slashes and Blood Craze. So for those of you guys who have seen my build videos, specifically my stamina build videos, you guys will notice that I have a preference to use Blood Craze instead of Rending Slashes. However, Rending Slashes, as those of you guys who play Stamina know, is typically the stronger morph. It's often considered the better morph because it deals more damage. So if we, for example, if we go ahead and take a look at the actual tooltip, you can see here that when you get to choose which one you want to morph your twin slashes into, Rending Slashes increases the initial damage. So it deals more damage right off the bat. Compared to Blood Craze. So Blood Craze gives you that additional heal. It heals you for a certain amount of health every 2 seconds for the duration of the ability, which ends up being about 8 seconds there. Or I should say 9 seconds, so you really get 5 ticks of that. I think it's 5 ticks of the heal that you end up getting. So a lot of people have been saying, you know, or at least I've had some people ask me, why am I using Blood Craze instead of Rending Slashes? You know, is it that heal really worth giving up that DPS? And so if you take a look at the tooltip, I don't have Rending Slashes completely leveled up entirely on this tune, but you can see that the bleed itself does the exact same amount of damage. So we're still dealing 10,965 physical damage regardless of whether we are using Rending Slashes or if we're using Blood Craze. The only thing that's going to be different is going to be that heal on Blood Craze, and then Rending Slashes deals just a little bit more damage on the initial hit. So it deals a certain amount of physical damage for each weapon. So you have that hit twice. So you can see here that we're doing 2466 instead of 2196 compared to Blood Craze, which is a little less than a 300 damage bonus. So, you know, if you got to take into consideration how many times are you actually using Rending Slashes or Blood Craze in a single fight, how often are you getting those hits in, and is that going to end up resulting in a significant increase in DPS? So what I basically did was, I didn't use this tune because I have Blood Craze leveled all the way up to level 4. I only have Rending Slashes up to level 1, at least on the PTS, and that's mainly because the time they copied characters over, I had not, at that time at least, leveled up Rending Slashes all the way. So if I were to do it on live, I actually do have Rending Slashes and Blood Craze both leveled up all the way. So I did this on a template tune instead. And so here are, give me a second here. So here is the results. So we have Rending on the left, Blood Craze on the right, and this is all done on my Stam Decay on the PTS. Running Briarheart and Mechanical Acuity with Valadreth. The only thing I changed was the morph. So my rotation stayed the same, the skills remained the same, skills, enchants, everything remained exactly the same between these two parses. You can see here that the mean here, we're only sitting at about 400 DPS difference, more or less. Once you kind of take into consideration the sort of kind of randomness behind the crit hits, things like that, it's a fairly small difference. It only ends up being about a 1.1% difference in DPS, single target DPS, I should say. And so you kind of have to make a judgment call there. Would you rather do, you know, once you add in things like raid buffs and things like that, it'll probably be closer to like 2 or 3% additional DPS. So would you rather do an additional 2 to 3% DPS if you're pulling, let's say, like 55k with the raid buffs, or 60k with raid buffs? You know, you're looking at that is pretty much going to be around like a 2k increase or so, probably even less than that. So you know, you gotta kind of ask yourself, is that worth losing that little bit of heal? Now, the heal itself from Blood Craze actually isn't all that strong. If you guys saw the tooltip, it was less than 1,000 every 2 seconds. So it's not a very strong heal itself. You're definitely going to get more heals out from your healers. You're going to get more heals out from your vigor. And of course, the downside of using Vigor is you end up losing something like Flames of Oblivion, for instance, if you're on a Stam Decay. And some classes don't really have any space for Vigor without giving up some sort of DPS ability. You know, off the top of my head, I'm thinking of maybe like a Nightblade. There aren't that many abilities that you're going to want to give up in order to use Vigor instead for a heal. So, in that regard, you know, Blood Craze itself even though that heal is nice, it's still a very small heal when you compare it to something like Vigor, when you compare it to a healer's Healing Springs or Energy Orbs. So you kind of have to make that decision for yourself. Would you rather, again, deal about 2 to 3% extra DPS, or would you rather have like about a 1k heal every 2 seconds? It's up to you. I like to have a little bit more survivability because at least the way that I lead raids and the way that I kind of take, the approach as a DPS is I want to stay alive longer so I can continue to deal DPS. If I'm dead, that means somebody else has to come res me. That person's not dealing any DPS for 7 seconds, maybe 5 seconds if we have a Magplar in group, or a Stamplar who's doing the resing. So to me is that I don't think giving up that little bit of heal, even though it is only a 1k heal every 2 seconds, that's to me isn't really going to be worth getting the additional 2 to 3% additional DPS. However, if you're running with a very good group, and you trust your healers, then by all means you can use Rending Slashes. So you'll be gaining, like I said, about 2 to 3 once you take into consideration raid buffs. But that's about how much DPS you're losing. You're losing about 1.1% single target without raid buff, self-buffed, in exchange for about a 1k heal every 2 seconds. So it's kind of up to you what you want to do. If you want that little bit of extra survivability, a little bit of cushion room, so to speak, or if you want that additional DPS. That's up to you to make. I can only give you my recommendations based on my playstyle, but everybody has a different playstyle. Everybody has a different raid group, and the only person who knows what that group is capable of doing is going to be you and probably your raid lead for that group. So that concludes this video. Hope you guys learned something out of this, and I will see you guys in the next dungeon.